Welcome to the 15th episode of the Running with Kelly podcast, where we talk about running, racing, and relationships. My name is Kelly Nash, and I'm an RRCA Level 2 certified running coach. And today we're talking with someone from the RWK family, Nick Budinski. Nick has been running since cross country in 8th grade. He continued to run competitively in high school and college and into adulthood. Nick earned his bachelor's in art and his master's in art therapy, both at Marywood University in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And he currently supports adults in a long-term care facility here in Rochester, New York. Joining me in this conversation is my best friend and co-host, Alex Kroll. Alex, you are the yin to my yang. And I'm so glad we get to do this podcast together.
I am too, and I am really excited to talk to Nick tonight because he is a heck of a runner and a heck of a person, and I'm really glad he can share his story with us tonight. So let's get right to it because he's got a lot to say, and I know our listeners are going to want to hear it. So take it away, Kelly Nash.
Oh, yes. And just full disclosure, this is the second time through this because we had some technical difficulties the first time that we went through, but that just means this one's going to be even better. So Nick, thank you and welcome a second time to the Running with Kelly podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Those were all great things you both said about me. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And I had so much fun the last time, why not do it again?
Let's just do this again.
Yeah.
So I know one of the first questions we asked you last time, and it was interesting because I think it's the first time I actually heard the answers, was what made you decide to join cross country back in 8th grade, and had you done other sports, and to tell us about how you came to running?
Yeah. So I started when I was growing up playing almost every sport there is, probably under the sun. You name it, I've probably tried it. Growing up, I was so determined to be this really amazing athlete, and it took me a really long time to try to find what sport I was good at because I sucked at a lot of them. Baseball, soccer, basketball, I tried it all, just could never get into the rhythm, whatever I needed to do to excel at those sports. So I was in middle school at the time, and I had played soccer in 7th grade and hated it. I had no friends on the team. I just was not good at it, and I was just doing it to say I did a sport. And then one day I realized that all my friends were over on the cross country team, and they were over running. And I would watch them run by every day and just feel like, oh, I like that looks like it's so much fun. I hate running, but at least they're having fun with it. So eventually, one of my best friends, Taylor, she just talked me into trying it. And so the next year in 8th grade, I just, I said, why not? Let's give it a try. And I went into it only for the sole purpose of, socializing and having fun. I was not a naturally gifted runner, so I was just there to have a good time. And I just really took a liking to it right away. I had so many friends, like I said, on the team already, and I made so many more. So it really started as a social thing, and it grew into what it is now.
So Nick, you ran in high school. Obviously, you got pretty good at it. When did you decide that you wanted to run in college, that this was going to be a longer term thing than just, let me go hang out with my friends and run a few miles in hills?
I think, thinking back on it now, the idea of running in college didn't really hit me until the end of my junior season. That year, my team, we had won sectionals, we had gone to states, and I think at the time like the 6th runner on the team, so I wasn't even scoring. I was just there, like I said, to have fun. Like I started way back when, it was just there to really just go along for the ride. And then I made it to the state meet, and that alone was such an awesome experience. I kind of never really expected myself to ever get to that level of performing in a sport ever. So to be there with my team of friends and having such a good time, I was just so excited. And I went into the state race and I PR'd by like 45 seconds. Wow. I had jumped up by I went from being the 6th runner on my team to tying for like 3rd or 4th. So I had made a significant impact in that race. And in that moment, I was like, oh, okay, I think we're on to something here. I think this is something that needs to be, taken a little bit more seriously than just having a good time.
Here was a question I failed to ask last time because I'm watching high school athletes right now coming out of their seasons. What did your off seasons look like? Because I know some kids are like, I'm done with my sport, I'm just taking the whole time off. Did you continue to run even in the off season?
Oh yeah, 100%. I remember training between like 8th and ninth grade. So before I joined the high school cross country team, I was terrified. I was like, I'm gonna be one of the smallest and youngest kids out there. Like, I don't want to come into practice and just get blown away, you know. So I did everything the coach told us to do as far as summer training goes, like to a T, like probably a little too much. Like I documented, I wrote every run I did. I wrote whether it was a good run, a bad run, little things I saw on the way. It was like just I like went 100% into that training, and I saw such immediate improvement from the end of 8th grade to the start of ninth grade. You know, I had jumped up from being, you know, a back of the pack runner just having fun to now I wasn't on the varsity 7 yet, but I was like I was starting to make my way up there, and I was starting to prove that, you know, I could do a little bit more with this team. So that was like my first experience, like really training in the off season for anything. Um, and I think because I was starting to see some success with that, I kind of, you know, was like, all right, this is obviously working, so I'm going to stick with it. And then in high school, obviously there's indoor track, outdoor track, so it was really easy to run year round. And yeah, it was really the summer training is, I think, really ultimately the key to all my success is just, you know, working just as hard during the summer as any other season during the year.
Cool.
Now, Alex, I know last time you had asked about the transition into college, and I thought your answer was really interesting. So I want to make sure we get to that again. When you did decide to go to play or to run at Marywood, uh, were you recruited, and like what was that whole process like?
Yeah, I mean, Marywood was a D3 school, so it wasn't like top of the line coaches are scouting me out or anything. It was I was I knew I wanted to run in college. So ultimately it came down to, you know, what schools meet my education requirements, and then from there, what are their cross country teams like? And my decision on Marywood came down to the fact that the coach at Marywood at the time was showing the most interest in me. You know, like I said, we're D3. It's not like we're going to do anything, but, you know, just to feel like someone out there is actually going to, you know, take me seriously as a runner and try their best to, you know, make me that much better of a runner. That made me feel really, really good and really, I guess, validated or special. So the coach at the time, he was definitely the one who, you know, kind of persuade me to go more towards Marywood. You know, there were a couple other coaches along the way at some of the schools that I were looking at that showed a little bit of interest, but not as much.
Were you
What
able
was
to
your
run
favorite
in
part?
grad school too, or was it?
What was that?
Were you able to run when you went transitioned into graduate school?
So I don't know how legal this was or what, but so my Marywood at the time, um, they had just started their track program like when I was a senior in undergrad. So we kind of skated by with the fact like, oh, I have no, you know, I've never done outdoor track for college, so technically I still have some eligibility there.
Mhm.
Um, so that kind of, you know, we didn't really draw too much attention to that fact, but I guess now that it's in the past, we can kind of say it out loud. But so I don't know how official that whole thing was, but I said, hey, if these coaches are going to take that chance and let me keep running, then I'm just going to keep running. So I did run 2 seasons of outdoor track and 1 season of cross country because I had been hurt for a season in undergrad in grad school.
Gotcha. So, Nick, you ran in college. Now you're an adult. What made you decide you wanted to try a much longer distance? As we know, when you're in college, you're running 5Ks, 10Ks, and now all of a sudden you are a fantastic marathoner. Talk about that jump.
I don't know. It just always seemed like the next step, I guess, because, you know, when I was in high school, the next step seemed like college running. And then at the end of college, it's like, all right, the next big thing is a marathon. So um, I think a lot of it too had to deal with the fact that where Marywood is in Scranton, PA, they have the Steamtown Marathon. So, you know, during every cross country season, every weekend, we'd go out and watch these runners go by. And, you know, we ran a pretty significant amount of that course, even just in our training. You know, I think going into the marathon, that was my first marathon, was the um, Steamtown Marathon. But going into that race, I had already known probably over half that course just because I had run it so much in college. So I felt pretty confident in the fact that I knew what I was getting into, which I was completely wrong about. But yeah, it just seemed like the next natural step. It was like I really want to challenge myself and see what happens. So
And you fell in love with marathoning, right?
that's a bit of a stretch, but
Does anyone ever actually fall in love with marathoning?
I don't know. I don't know about that one.
Maybe with the training and the feelings you get after.
Yeah, I will say it is an addictive feeling once you do finish a marathon. It's like it's like well, I did that, you know. It's like such a addictive. It makes you want it more and more.
Yeah, it is. So I want to make sure we touch base on your support system.
Hmm.
And so we have to put the picture up of little
Of
Nick
course, of course.
because I did get to chat with Cheryl, Nick's mom, and she sent me the pictures, and she mentioned that she does. I asked like what types of things she might say to you before a race, and she did say she refers to you as pal,
Hmm.
which I think is the cutest thing, pal.
Yeah.
It's very unique.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
did it come from? Do you know?
yeah. No idea. No idea.
Pal. But I like what she says, pal, you can do whatever you want as long as you have faith, even if it is the size of a mustard seed. And your only purpose in life is to do the best you can, no matter what you're doing. So did she literally say these things to you, or did she just tell me that?
You know, I'm sure she's probably said something along those lines. I don't know if it was that exact quote, but I like that though.
Yeah. So what's it like having such a supportive family in your corner? And I assume it was like that right from the beginning and to even now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's been awesome. I definitely don't think I would have had as much success where like today as I would have had without a supportive family. You know, I definitely give them the credit for a lot of my success because, you know, without that, I probably wouldn't have pursued college running or, you know, my mom was a big reason why I sought you out as a coach, you know. So without these things over the years, like I probably wouldn't have made it this far as a runner. So yeah, right from the very beginning, they were always very supportive. You know, like I said before, I tried every sport. They always came to every game, and you know, oh, you did great. And I'm like, you don't have to lie to me. You know, I know I didn't do great out there on the ball field today, but you know, they had that same attitude when I started running. They came to every meet. I still remember my first meet. It was at Mendon Ponds. I was doing modified cross country, and it was like a mile and a half race. Like it was nothing compared to what I'm doing now. But I remember the finish line, it's like up a slight hill and, you know, you come around the bend and there it is. And I remember hearing my dad from the sidelines just screaming and cheering for me as if I was winning the race, which I definitely wasn't. You know, so it's just like little things like that, that they've always shown that they've been supportive of whatever it is I want to pursue. And like I said, wouldn't have been as successful without that.
That's awesome. And we
So
love
Nick,
your mom. Everybody knows your mom, right?
Everyone
Everyone
knows my
knows your
mom.
mom.
your mom
She,
is always fantastic at every race because I will throw stuff at her, like if I'm
yeah.
my hat, and she always just hangs on to it.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
just a mom. It's
She's
great.
awesome. Yeah, she really is. It's always amazing to me because it's like we can go to any race anywhere ever, and you know she could start a race without knowing anyone and cross the finish line with like 10 or 15 new friends. And it's like I don't know what that's like. I'm not a social runner like that anymore. It's like I'm just there to run as fast as I can. So I think it's awesome that she's like the complete other end of things where she's just there to have a good time and make friends and meet new people and all that good stuff.
Hey Nick, you touched on it a minute ago that you said you met Kelly through your mom. What made you decide you wanted a running coach?
Well, you know, I had tried doing the whole independent running thing for a couple years after I had finished up with my college career. And I was not having any success with it whatsoever. You know, I ran my first marathon, didn't know what I was doing. But you know, I was like, oh, you know, it's the first time, I'll learn as I go. I did another marathon a year later, still didn't know what I was doing, but I did set a PR. So I was like, all right, so something's working. But then the following year, I got hurt. And then I just saw all my time starting to drop. It wasn't like I was getting any faster. In fact, I think I was starting to get pretty slow compared to what I'm doing now. Um, So I was like, all right, I definitely can't keep doing this alone. I need some sort of support. I need someone who knows what they're doing. I need an expert to kind of just like take over all control and just tell me what to do and I'll do it kind of thing.
Including running in the parking lot in snowy weather.
And yep, in the dark, cold, freezing nor'easters that we get all the time. Yeah.
Listen,
Well,
if you can
remember-
run all those miles in the parking lot behind Wegmans, you can do anything. I mean, that
Yeah.
is just such a mental test back there in the winter. It's fun to watch you back there, and also mind-boggling to see you just back and forth, because that's a lot of miles in a parking
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, my mind is pretty boggled when I'm doing that too.
In fact,
I yeah, some of those were kind of crazy. For your last this past year, looking back on it, you've done some pretty amazing things. I know you had PR'd last year at Wineglass. I believe it
Mhm.
was 303 you had gotten to.
Yes,
Um,
303. Yep.
So, and then we had made some adjustments, went into and had an incredible 2023. But before we get to that point, why don't you tell us about like what is the Boston qualifying time for you? How has it changed over the last couple of years? And then what did we change in your training that might have helped?
All right. Yeah. So when I first started doing marathons, so my first one was 2017. At the time, for my age group, to qualify for Boston, I needed 3 hours and 5 minutes. And at the time, I thought that was a pretty achievable goal. I think my first marathon was like 3:17. So I was like, oh, with more experience, I could get down to that. And then the following year, it was 2018. I was like 2 or 3 weeks out from my next marathon, and they made the announcement like, "Oh, surprise! The requirement now is 3 flat." So it's like,
uh,
okay, so I've been training all summer for a 3:05 marathon, and now I have to just jump in and hope that I can shave off another 5 minutes. Um, which I didn't even hit 3:05 anyways at the time. So, but that has been such a struggle to get there. I've chipped away at that time, and it definitely hasn't been easy. But I think the thing that we've changed since I did the 303 last, what was it, a year ago now?
Yeah.
Um, I think
Yeah.
well, the first thing was just training through the winter. I had never done that before. Usually I was doing like one marathon a year. So I would train all summer and then run the marathon in the fall. And then it'd be like, all right, I'll see you in the spring kind of thing. I'll keep running on the side here as we go, but winter isn't really my thing. So this past year, it was definitely just, all right, we're on the right track. So let's just keep it going. Why stop now? So that was a huge thing that we did alone, was just, working hard through those cold winter months in the parking lot.
And you
But
ran a half marathon in January, first weekend in January too.
yeah,
How'd you do there?
that was pretty good. I took third, which I wasn't really expecting. I
Third
ran a
overall, right?
Yeah, third overall, and my time I think was even to where I had been in the spring a couple months prior to that at Flower City. So yeah, it was definitely showing like, just the simple fact of running through the winter, kind of like it's circling back to the concept of running through the summer, like I used to do in high school. It's like, this is okay. I was stupid not to do this before, because clearly this kind of thing works. But also I think we kind of focused more on mental strategies too. I think we kind of talked about different techniques on how to focus on, less on the pain and more on the simple fact of running. Like I remember we talked about, zoning out, right? So you focus on where you are right now and then zone out and then zone back in and then zone out a little further. And I remember, I don't think I've ever actually tried that, but it's just like simple little mental strategies like that kind of, just helped me start thinking differently about racing. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself every single race, and now it's like, all right, well, with the marathon, it's like you can go in and, you can kind of turn your brain off for a little bit and just run on feel and then make changes. And that was a huge game changer too.
So what that was the big race that you trained through the winter for. We had some pretty crappy weather,
Yep.
and when it's crappy and we're doing speed work, we have to find any place we can find at all that's not slippery and slick. And it was generally in the back of a Wegmans parking lot.
Yep.
Oh, but that was why don't you tell us about that marathon a little bit?
Yeah, so the next one I did then was this past March was Shamrock down in Virginia Beach. And that one just sounded fun. I'd never been to Virginia Beach and I knew nothing about the area. I didn't know if it was hilly or flat or what it was going to be like. I just knew like, all right, it's a spring marathon. It's down south, so hopefully warmer than what it is here in Rochester at that time, which it wasn't. So it was something, it was a new experience and I was excited for it.
And you did really well.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
At what point during that race did you know that you were going to break that 3-hour mark?
At the finish line. There was always that doubt in my mind, you know, it was like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good, feeling pretty good. Once I got past mile 13, I was like, all right, this is going to be where it starts to hurt. So let me just focus mile by mile. Let me focus on getting to 14, feeling okay, and then feeling good at 15. And I just broke it down that way. And I remember I came to mile 20 and there was like a sign that said like break through the wall. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to break through that wall. And I did. I ran past that and I was feeling good still. And I was like, I've never felt this good at mile 20. So let's just keep it going. There's only 6 miles left. So it was mile 21 feeling good, mile 22 feeling good. And I was like, I still don't believe that this could actually happen until it's over and done with and I'm driving home. You know, it's I remember crossing the timing mat at mile 25 and I had like 10 minutes to spare and I was feeling good. Like I had a kick going. I was like turning up the speed. I was like, I can do this, but it's not guaranteed. I could still trip and fall and break my leg right now. You know, it's like there's still those thoughts in your mind. So it wasn't until I actually finished that I was like, okay, all right, now it's real.
So what was your time for that marathon, Nick?
So that time was 2:56.
Wow.
So from October of last year to March of this year, that was 7 minutes of a PR.
Wow, that is huge.
I mean, longest amount of time. I mean, that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
so that was qualified time, right? So
Yep.
that was okay. I broke the 3 hours by quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that was it. Here we go. We're going to Boston.
Yeah. I was super excited. This had been a lifelong dream of mine for so long, and you know, I was like, I felt like just such an immense weight fall off my shoulders, just knowing that first of all, I did it, that I'm capable of pulling this off, and like second of all, that it's coming true. You know, it's like this is actually happening. You know, I've met these standards that I thought were impossible for so long. I finally did it. I can finally say I'm good enough for Boston.
So now that was in March.
That was in March.
Then you ran your first. Well, tell us a little bit about your birthday run.
Oh yeah. So I forgot about that actually.
How can you forget?
I know. So it was, I think exactly like 2 months later to the day, I ran my first ultra marathon on my birthday. Because it was my 30th birthday, and I really wanted something to like ring in this. This is a milestone year, you know. It's like I wanted something epic. I wanted something awesome. So I just happened to see that Mind the Ducks, this 10-hour race or 12-hour race, I should say, fell right on my birthday this year, and I said, why not? And yeah, so I set out with the goal of doing, I think it was 30 miles for 30 years. And then I saw on their website that if you make it to 31 miles, you get, what is it, like a travel coffee mug or a water bottle or something. And I'm like, all right, so we'll do 30 miles and one more for good luck to get that little travel coffee mug that, you know, I've never used, but it's sitting on my counter. I look at it every day.
Does it have the right date on it?
It does actually. Yeah, it does.
That race is known for messing up the date on their.
Really? Well, it was right this year. They knew it was my birthday, so they got it right.
Perfect.
But yeah, that was a really fun experience. I had no idea what I was going to be, you know, running as far as time wise, or I didn't really know what to expect at all. Just because, you know, my goal was 4 miles further than what I've ever run in my entire life. So I was like, I could just get to 26 and crumple into a ball, and that would be it. You know, I don't know what to expect beyond that. And you know, I had a lot of support that day. You guys were there. I had, you know, friends and family come and support, and the weather was awful.
I was going to say the weather was fantastic, right?
It was probably one of the worst running days I've ever had as far as weather goes. It's just complete downpour. Didn't let up at all. Yeah. I I
I
think it
feel
was
like
like,
I've blocked all that out already.
yeah, probably from the trauma, right? You just block that out.
Well, that race now so many times, and it's been traumatic every time I've done it in different ways, that they all just tend to blur together
Yeah,
into some this loop around North Ponds Park.
yeah,
So do it 5 or 6 times, and you'll be there. So
yeah.
join the
Yeah, it was that was a fun race though, even despite the weather and
So you
everything.
did that first.
What was that?
Do it again this year. I promise. Different.
All right.
Join us again this year. The weather will be different. I'm not guaranteeing best.
Right, just different.
Just different, yeah.
Just
Could be colder, it might be snowing, you know.
You never know with it has snowed at mine
Yeah,
I think.
and then we had that one year where it was about 90 degrees.
Yeah,
And that
that's,
was the year that I had to go and coach in the middle of it. So
ugh.
that was, Nick, I left for like 4 hours to go coach a Little League baseball game. And
That's
they let
awesome.
me hop back on. So I had like, one of my miles took me 4.5 hours because I had to hop on and hop
Yeah, but you
at the
did it, and
exact
that's
same
awesome.
time. So
I think you're the only one that
I
ever.
don't recommend everyone, though. I don't recommend that at all because it is very hard to get your mojo back after that.
I
for
bet,
sure.
yeah.
So
So-
Nick, tell us about when you applied to when you sent your application in to do Boston, because we're excited.
Yeah,
And
it was
you qualified.
I know it's the thing with Boston, it's such a long waiting game, right? It's like you have to wait until the middle of September, right? Usually to apply for this race. So for me, when I qualified in March, that's what, six months to sit around and just wait and hope for the best, keep those fingers crossed. So it was like getting up to that point, I was kind of able to put Boston on the back burner for a little bit and just focus on having fun. I did the ultra, that was fun, and then just different races along the way. So getting to September when it was time to apply, I was like, all right, like I think I'm finally ready just to kind of get this going. So the application process, it started on a Monday, and I remember I came home from work and that was the first thing I did. I just logged right in, I filled out my application, sent it right in, and then it was done. I thought it was going to be this big grand event, but it was really just like applying for any other race. But then you don't know if you're in right after you submit it, right? So, you have the whole rest of the week to wait around for the application process to close once everyone has submitted their applicants. So again, I was able to put Boston on the back burner for a couple more days. And then I remember Friday night at the end of the week, I was just sitting at home watching TV and I was scrolling through Instagram, I think, and I saw that Boston had posted that it had been a record-breaking number of applicants by like 3,000. So there was like a total of 33,000 applicants for this upcoming year's Boston. And in that moment, I just felt my heart sink because, Boston was such a hard thing to get to. And I finally got to that point where I could even just apply for it. And now it's not even guaranteed. So it's like, I remember just this feeling of like, just complete, like being devastated because I'm like, I have no control over this anymore. So it was really hard then to just kind of leave it all up to fate. And it was another 2 weeks of sitting around and waiting before I finally got what I'm calling my Boston rejection letter, which, verified that I did not make the cutoff time for this year's Boston. And, nice effort though, and congrats for making it to the qualifying time. So that was that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever experienced as a runner, was just getting that rejection letter.
It is. I've gotten the same, where I had qualified by 3 minutes, and the worst part, and I felt embarrassed because I was like, I made it. I'm writing a blog about it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in, and then to have it not be enough. Like,
Yeah.
and then to have to explain to people who don't know how it works. Well,
Right.
I thought you qualified. Well, I did, but so did this many other people.
Right. I know, and I felt the same way. It was like I wasn't necessarily embarrassed for the fact that I did get in. It was just like, ugh, I have to tell all these people over and over and over again. I have to relive this moment and just say, oh, actually, Boston's not happening because I wasn't fast enough this year.
Which is all, and you got this news right before heading. Now you were doing Steamtown again, which you had said was your very first
Yeah.
ever. So you're going back there.
Yeah,
thinking it's just for fun, and then, but you had
yeah,
gotten this news.
yeah. I remember I wasn't even thinking about Steamtown at all until all this happened. I had signed up for Steamtown solely for the purpose of just getting another marathon in, and having it be like, oh, this is like my victory lap, right? It's like this is where I started. I had wanted to qualify from Boston, like right at that race, and now here I am 6 or 7 years later, having qualified for Boston, and I'm going back to where I started to kind of just see what I can do now. And then the week before, I get that news, and it's like, well, it's time to shift all of my mental focus onto this one race, because I was already way ahead in Boston. I was like, can't wait to do this race. Here's all the training I'm going to do. Can't wait for another winter of parking lot runs and just get to Boston. So I had to really shift gears really quickly, and ultimately that was kind of just like, that's really hard to do last minute like that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know you had such a great 2023. I wanted to also quickly mention that you did a series through Rochester Running Company, the River Run 5K series. So
Hmm.
was it once a month for was it 6 months or?
Yeah. I think the second Tuesday. Yeah, the second Tuesday of every month from April to September.
And you won
It,
overall.
it,
You won it.
yeah, I won.
You won. I
Uh,
won. So
but
there's some big things that you accomplished in the year, and just I know it's obviously hard to have to, and I know what it's like, not
yeah,
quite get in like you had planned. But how do you feel about your future?
I feel, it's been tough the last couple, I want to say 6 weeks. I was kind of in a bit of a funk because everything that happened, it was like, I I had lost my dream. It was stolen from me. That's what it felt like, right? So, and then not doing as well at this Steamtown as I had hoped. I was kind of in this funk for, 6 weeks or so since the marathon. But I will say, just this past week, I've kind of gotten this breath of fresh air again. It's like, all right, um, I've shed the tears that I've needed to cry about this, and it's time to kind of just pick myself back up and look forward. There's nothing I can do now to change it. It's not like I'm waiting for Boston to be like, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Just kidding. So
Hi.
yeah, just yeah, it's like I can't let it hold me back anymore. I had to just start living in this moment and living for the future. And I've been this past weekend alone, I've gotten really, really excited about running again. I'm really excited. I think I know what my next big marathon's going to be. So oh yeah.
Are you going to share it with us, or do we have to wait?
And we might wait. It'll be a surprise.
To your coach, you'll have to talk to me after.
Yeah, we'll chat after. But yeah, so now I'm starting to get really excited again. I always get really excited at the end of a year like this, right around this time of the year where it's time to like kind of start reflecting on the past year and start looking ahead to future goals. I always get really excited. So, I'm kind of excited just to kind of get through this next month and a half of 2023 and then just leave it all behind.
I love it. And now maybe it's also time for cheesecake. I don't know. But I do want to just quickly, I think we have like 2 minutes left. You have a big fan club.
I do. I do. It's awesome to have. It's honestly kind of shocking to me because I've never been, like this. I say I got into running for the social aspect of it, but I've never really been this big social butterfly. So the fact that over all these years I've kind of accumulated all these fans, I'm like, why though? Why are you guys like? Why me? It's like it's awesome to see this all the support and all this love from this big group of people. But it's been kind of, surprising to be honest. So I appreciate it all so much though.
I think Alex and I know why. Because you're a great guy.
Oh.
And you are fun to cheer for. Like Alex had mentioned on the first time we went through this recording about how running on Tuesday nights when you're out there doing your workout and running so hard and you're still encouraging other people,
Mhm.
and you make us feel fast, which is great. We love that. And we love that about you too. So I'm excited. I can't wait to find out what it is that you have planned for 2024. Hopefully you tell
Yeah,
me about it. And
I'll tell you real soon. I think you got to make a plan.
awesome. And more, hopefully more parking lot runs and, 15 by 1K repeats and all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yep. 3x3 milers,
Oh,
8-mile
yeah.
tempos. Yep.
All the fun stuff, all the good stuff. Well, I
Yeah.
think you have so much laying in front of you. You broke through that ceiling, that very low, that ceiling of the 3 hours. That's gone, and I'm 100% positive that within the next couple of years, you're not even going to have to worry about what the qualifying time is because you're going to be so far under it.
I hope so.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us, Nick.
Thank you so much.
Fun chatting with you a second
Yeah.
time.
I love it. We could do this every week if we
We'll do
want,
this every week. Alex, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
What else? Okay. So we do have Track Friday coming up on this Friday after Thanksgiving at the Arundecoit High School track. So join us if you want between 8 and 11 and do as many laps as you want, raising money for the Sunset House. So hopefully we'll see you there. And everyone, hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you like it, please like it, subscribe, so you can know when we release new podcasts, and share it with your friends and comment. We'd love to hear what you think. And everyone, thanks and happy running.